Thank you for being here this evening. I'd like to welcome you to the City Council special meeting at 6:30 on Tuesday, June 16th, 2020. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order and go to the roll call, please.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilwoman Gussie.
Here.
Councilmember Manfredi.
Here.
Councilmember Vitiello. Here. Councilmember Wade.
Here.
Vice Mayor Smith.
Here.
Mayor Price.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Great, thank you very much. That'll take us to item 3. We have 3.1, which is PH 20-10. The Mayor and City Council shall hear public comment regarding adoption of the final budget for fiscal year 2020-2021. This is a public hearing. I don't know if we're going to have any staff report on this public hearing at this time. I look to City Manager Horst.
Just a very few comments, Mayor. As you know, we presented this to the public and to you as a tentative budget. It's been out there for the public to review. Outside of any who may show up tonight, we have not received any public comments.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone that would like to make public comments at this time? I don't see anyone outside, and then we'll move to Councilwoman Gussie if she has a question.
No, I just wanted to circle back to one of the conversation that we had originally on the budget regarding the membership of those organizations. And I'm sure everyone has read the memo that City Manager Horst had sent us on May 7th regarding the 3 organizations in question: the Arizona-Mexico Commission, which is $1,500, the Canadian-Arizona Business Council, which is $10,000, and then the GPEC, which is at $27,825. Just one of the concerns that I had is still circling back to the whole issue as to how long are we going to continue to go down that rabbit hole and continue to pay. I just wanted to give you an example of, I had the records pulled for GPEC. We've been membership since, this is membership showing since 2009 for a total of $301,830. And then CABC, we've been a member since 2014 for a total of $60,000. And then Arizona-Mexico Commission, we've only been members for 1 year. These are extraordinary, these are astronomical numbers when you look at it. GPEC, the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, is that correct? Okay. Although I did read the memo, and City Manager Horst does see some value in keeping GPEC. Can you expand on that as to why you see us?
I think, since the day I got here, I've been talking about infrastructure and needing to have infrastructure. We can market all day long, but until you have infrastructure to support new development, you're not going to get it. And I think now with the Estrella Gin project, which should be breaking ground in the next 60 days, give or take, that will provide some opportunity. And frankly, with the conversation we just had about a half hour ago, I think it now provides an opportunity to maybe receive some leads from them. I do think at some point hopefully META will grow to a point where we can do that in-house. So there's 2 things here. One is buy some time till META can prove themselves and grow to that. Secondly, I think my recommendation was let's at least go another year. Let's evaluate based on now that we have resources or places to put these things, and then reevaluate next year. Because I think in fairness, it's somewhat on us too, because we haven't provided a place to put these sites and these businesses. But I think ultimately, META should be able to step up and GPEC step out, or one or the other. But the Estrella Gin will be physically in place a year from now.
And my follow-up question, do you see any overlap between CABC and GPEC? Is there a possibility where we could start making those connections through GPEC instead of another membership?
Well, CABC, it really isn't about providing leads. They're about providing context and making connections between businesses and people. So, unless you work the system, you're not going to get any benefit out of that. So I think there's a difference because GPEC receives requests for proposals, in essence, from companies seeking to land. The CABC maybe creates opportunities that weren't even on the radar screen. But again, it really takes involvement, and I think the more the council can be involved in that, but also staff and META now in this case needs to be involved. And I will tell you that I read through META's business plan, which they'll be presenting to their board in their next board meeting. They do talk a lot about making additional efforts with the CABC that they haven't done in the past to try to make that, to reap some benefits from those connections.
And is META involved with CABC?
Or
Now?
as a member, is that what you're asking, as a member?
Or making any connections with them to
Yes,
date?
yes, they are. The mayor and I and Ioana Morphosis met with Glenn.
Yeah, so
What's Glenn's
just
last name?
let him explain this, but the answer is no, it haven't been, to date, because we haven't had that person like James that's been hired on. I'm sure you've met him, but to his explanation he's going to give you right now, we have brought Ioana in to help data mine all the contacts that Glenn has given to her, and therefore to META. So that's what he's going to explain here.
Yeah, so part of the job description that META has with the city of Maricopa is they have to now engage GPEG, Arizona Commerce Commission, CABC, the Arizona Mexico Commission, all of those, they have to engage and get involved, have a physical presence, and they're there to represent us. There'll be times when it's important for you as elected officials to be there too. So again, a year from now, we're going to be evaluating META, we're going to be evaluating GPEG and all these other things and see where we're at. Based on the game plan that they're going to be presenting, which ultimately will come to you, I think they're saying the right things and planning the right things. Now it's just up to execution.
And do you envision someday META taking over the whole CABC membership? And
I think it's highly possible, yes. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a decision for this city council to make, but I think that's highly possible.
okay, I just wanted to bring this topic back, make it full circle. And Councilmember Brown could attest the fact that META was created for just that purpose, is to make sure that we weren't going down this long road with these organizations. And judging by what recently happened to me, I don't think businesses want to really hear from individual council members. That's my personal opinion. But I think, an organization like META has more power than an individual council member, building those relationships. Because council members come and go, and the city's still going to be here, whether we're here or
I
not.
disagree with that.
And no offense to the council, but I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, they want to hear from you too, but they want to hear from, META represents the business community.
Yes.
And if they hear the CEOs and presidents of banks and utility companies and others extolling the values of this community, that resonates with them quite significantly. And the whole reason behind META 2.0 is to get us to that point so they can take over those things. And frankly, they can do what they do best, which is bring the leads to us, and we can do what we do best, build the infrastructure in the city and merge the two together. So, we're starting a grand experiment in essence. And I think it's important that we give ourselves a little time to work that experiment. And I think it's a fair question to ask a year from now if we haven't begun to see some benefit.
Well, I too agree with you, Councilmember Gussie. I think I expressed by phone 3 meetings ago my real desire to look closely at the contribution we've been giving to the Arizona Business Canadian Alliance as well as the META. GPEG. But I've been lobbied quite strongly past 2 months by Mrs. Dr. Morphosis and Dr. Smith of META to not vote against their contributions. Dr. Smith is who I ultimately will be taking over from Ioana, the direction of META, has persuaded me that just give time and he can get some juice out of the Canadian deal as well as, excuse my description, but that's what it is, juice, as well as GPEG. And I would, on that basis, would tend to support that. I would not be around next year's budget, but I would recommend those who are here to look very closely at that. There has not been sufficient roles as referrals and something that you can directly lay at the feet of GPEC with a Canadian connection, that you might want to give a second thought to that. I don't believe in expending money in perpetuity. The mayor knows quite well I'm rather prudent when it comes to taxpayers' money. So I will support the continuation of supporting those two organizations in the budget.
Other council members this time? Yes, Councilmember Vitiello.
Yes, Mayor. I look at all these, all three of them, and start with the Mexican one, and I actually support that one 100%. We can't look at 1 year investment and say, well, we got nothing out of it, let's move on. So I'm 100% for moving forward with another year, at least another year, to look at what are you going to spend in advertising in another country to get anything out of it. And that's how I look at my dollars. What can I get out of my dollars for $1,500, I believe it is, we spend on that one? $1,500 is, one or two ads somewhere, and you're never going to see anything. But actually having bodies attend and shaking hands and meeting people is the way to go. And that's why I would support the Mexican, the Canadian one also, because of the USMCA. Now that that's going to be in full-fledged force, we really have an opportunity now to work with North and South to bring us together as one. And I am 100% for that. GPEC, I've been to a couple meetings and 100% agree that it does take time, and yes, it's hard to sometimes spend this money, but you need to invest. And we had a big downfall many, many years ago. Obviously, we all know when we went through the recession. But I have to tell you that when you meet with these people and shake hands and you show up time and time again, look at the 347. 15 years of standing in front of ADOT, asking for the same thing once a month for 15 years, and look what it brought us, a $55 million project. So the value, it takes time, and I am 100% supporting all three for us to do for the following year. Thank you.
Thank you. Others this time? No. I'll go ahead and just add my 2 cents to that. Again, I'm the one that attends all these, not because I want to necessarily, but because somebody's got to go. I mean, you got to remember, I took my lesson from, sitting in the audience and watching this council make hard decisions in 2008, 2009, 2010, and, clearly I take that taxpayer money very, very seriously. But I've also heard this very same council argue many times that they would throw $500,000 in no time at advertising in order to get our name out there. $500,000, that's a lot of money, and yet it's a scatter shot. It's a shotgun shell shot to hopefully get 7, 8, 9, 10 touches before somebody actually figures out, oh, you're the same people. Okay, so we'll spend $500,000 a year on advertising, but we won't spend $45,000 talking to the direct contacts that can potentially land us something. So let's throw this in advertising and write it off, right? Throw $45,000 into the advertising category, and there we go. We're all done. We're done arguing this point. But the reality is that this is much more than that, all right? And believe me, if we got rid of these organizations, you know how much time it'd save me a week? That'd be great. So let's do it. It'd save me a fortune in drive time and other things. But when I sat in the audience in 2008, there was a council member who once had the option of being assigned to one of these, and when it went around to say, what should we get rid of, or what do we got in our benefit for, that council member answered and said, well, I haven't been to a single meeting. Well, no kidding, we should get rid of that because we haven't been to a single meeting. What are we going to get out of it if we're not actually showing up? So my philosophy has been since day one, if we're going to go to this and we're going to be members of these things, then we dang well better show up. And I would frankly hope that all of us show up, but I'm the one who goes. And I go on a regular basis because it creates consistency. And I'm going to take a little bit of exception to, the argument that it's not that the city council and city council members and the mayor that aren't wanting to be seen there. Because ICSC proves differently. You know, how many times have we all been to ICSC and they recognize us when they come and they see us on a regular basis. And the reason they want to know that is they want to know that there is consistency among the government that is going to be pro-growth. And that pro-growth is what is going to allow that company to take their money and risk it in coming here. And that's why they know, because what do they know? They know that it has to come through P&Z. They know it has to come through this council for final approval. They know that we're going to direct our city manager to work with that company. That's why they want to make sure that we are consistent and that we are a pro-growth area, because that's what they're going to take with their life savings and what they're going to do in that measure. So the philosophy is that it cannot be one of what have you done for me lately. I know that's the easy answer, and I know it's the easy explanation to the constituency, but it doesn't take but one simple thing, one simple act, one simple locate to destroy every one of those arguments in perpetuity. And Rich brought up a great example when he said, look at the overpass. Okay, how many years did we sit here? I mean, when I came into this office 2012, I was told it will never happen. And I said, that's very possible true, but in the meantime, we're going to continue showing up and we're going to make all that we can to do to force that hand and make it happen. And $55 million later, guess what we see? We see an expansion of the south of the tracks mentality and growth at Copper Sky Commercial and growth everywhere south of the tracks simply because of an overpass. Because of one investment for $55 million. Did that validate every single ADOT trip that we ever took to Washington, D.C., to wherever they held ADOT meetings across the state? You better believe it did. And in fact, it could pay for them in perpetuity. And we'd still never reach the $55 million mark. So I have to ask ourselves, is this investment one in which we are utilizing to make and to strive for the purpose of driving that reassurance? Are we trying to make connections? Because if we're just going to, do advertising, then we might as well take advertising to zero. Because the chances that we land anything on advertising is 7 times touches and then it's a maybe. And that's just to remember our name. At least if we're showing up to places like GPEC and CABC and the Arizona-Mexico Commission and the Arizona Commerce Authority, we are literally paying for itself. And I want to give you another example. So, and again, this is going to sound somewhat arrogant, and I apologize. It does not have to do with me. It has to do with us as a city. And I'm representing you on your behalf. Okay? As president of the League of Cities and Towns, therefore all of you in Maricopa, we are invited to sit on the Arizona Commerce Authority board. Through our connections through GPEC, through MAG, and through Arizona Commerce Authority, I've gotten to know Sandra Watson, the president of the Arizona Commerce Authority, very well. Sandra Watson used our name with a given individual, Trevor Milton of Nikola Motors, and gave him that recommendation that he should call us and talk to us about a donation that he was looking to contribute. Okay, that donation is now going through here this week, and it's $10,000 to the food bank. It's $10,000 to the Arizona or to the Maricopa Community Foundation, and it's $10,000 going to our local restaurants. 20 restaurants divided by $500 a piece. Okay, that's $30,000. Right there, $30,000 just paid for a big chunk of a lot of this argument, okay? And it's not going to us, it's going to the people that we represent. And that's the point. The point is that the connections make a difference. And when you can show up, you can shake hands, you can be regular, you can be seen, you can be consistent, that's how you develop the relationship that then allows you to help bridge that gap. And I agree with City Manager Horst in the fact that this is the problem we've had in some respects from some of our past administrations here, is that we have brought some of these folks directly to, handed them off, and because the staff internally did not have that economic development mindset, it died. They died on the vine. And we can prove that in multiple occasions. In fact, I was sitting at a global water meeting at the Corporation Commission, and there was a developer who made sure to write me a note and pass it on down past 7 or 8 people while I sat at the end of the row, and it said, I just wanted you to know I'm so happy that you chose City Manager Horst. He understands economic development, and I'm willing to do business in your city again. So it's a multi-front war. It's not a one thing solves all. It has to be a multi-pronged approach. And any good general knows you open up a multi-front war because you stand to win by doing so. And that's my argument here. So again, if we want to get rid of it, then let's get rid of advertising and let's get rid of all memberships and let's just get rid of it all. Or we can actually continue to do what we're doing and setting a path and setting a trend. In fact, City Manager Horst just told me a story today about the things that we've been doing have been picked up in and of themselves on a national and an international schedule. He told me a story about a Canadian paper and a Canadian magazine. Maybe you want to convey that story here.
Well, I'm not sure I can do it justice, but the national magazine, and frankly, it's called something business, I apologize, but they were doing a story on cities that are showing success, and so we were just kind of on the list. But when they called today and spoke to staff and we talked to them about everything we're doing and our upgraded bond ratings and all the things we're doing and the lowering of our taxes, they said that they wanted to make us the feature story. And so we're working with them. They will be sending us some copy that we'll be working on over the next week or two. So I'll get you some more details.
So my argument here is this. My argument is not the fact that any one of these things I cannot promise you any one of them are going to pay off tomorrow. Couldn't promise you the overpass is going to pay off tomorrow, okay? But it did because we didn't give up. And I think that each one of us has put in an immense amount of time and connections, and you bring your resources, and you've brought all that to the table. And look at where Maricopa is at in the last decade. Look at what you have done. Why? I use this example with my financial planning clients. You take the time to build a financial plan, you build a strong boat. When the storms come, you don't jump out of the boat. You stay in the boat that you spent all that time preparing. Why on earth would we want to abandon these types of organizations when we have just now started to accumulate the precipice of having the council that understands this more than any other council that I've ever worked with, okay? You have a staff that understands it more than anybody else. You have a citizenship that is positive and excited about the growth that they're seeing in the city. You have a county that recognizes the growth that is being done here. You have an outside business community that understands it and is responding to it. And now we're going to need those people on our staff to do pro formas, right? That we can't hire 25 people at a cost of $27,000 to do a pro forma. Well, if that company is a $1.5 billion company, we might lose them. Okay, so why would you not have a $27,000 investment in a $1.5 billion customer? Or a $50 million customer, or a $1 million customer? It pays for itself. You don't want to bail when you finally reach the precipice. And that's my argument. It has nothing to do with the fact that we do or don't see a result. I absolutely want to see results, but I know that those results happen over time, and they happen because you don't give up. And that's my argument. It's always been my argument. So again, if we want to throw this into MEDA, that's fine. But let's give them the money to do it, because they ain't going to do it off the existing budget they have. Well, that money's still coming from us then, and it's still coming from the taxpayer. Okay? If we want to do this in the fashion where, that we just don't want to do anything, we want to be an island again, well, then we're going to act like some other cities in Pinal County, and we're going to stymie again. And I don't think that's what Maricopa is all about, personally. So those are my philosophies, those are my ideas, and at the same time, again, I think that if we need to, we throw it all into advertising and call it that. City Manager
There are
Horst.
only 3 of us who remotely question these expenditures. Myself, council members Manfredi and Gussie. I don't know how Councilman Manfredi feels about this. I've already spoken. I will support it. So you've really expended.
Yeah, let me jump in there.
Well, I'm not 3 events, but you've expended a lot of energy to oversell me. I've already been sold. The point is, and I told you why I was sold. But you mentioned about opening 2 fronts. You can open too many fronts because Hitler proved that. If he hadn't opened a front in Russia, he might have won Europe. He'd already won the Western Front. He made a mistake in going the Eastern Front, Russia. So be careful about going too many fronts. I know a little bit about that history too.
Go ahead.
I'm sitting over here, and of course I'm not on the dais right now. I'm sitting here in my office, and I have a couple things. One, I'm a salesperson, and my role and my job is once you know you have a sale, you shut up. Christian, shut up. You keep selling. We already said you have 4 votes already, and you have 7 because nobody's going to vote against it, and we're going to leave it in the budget, I assume, and we'll find out in a second. The other thing, Councilmember Gussie made a comment a little bit earlier ago. She said that businesses don't like hearing from council members. And I disagree. I talk to businesses every single day. I talk to businesses all the time. And they love hearing from a council member. They love hearing from us when we go into their offices and we talk to them about how we can help them out in terms of information. And they like talking to us, and they like hearing from us, and they like knowing what's happening in the city and how we can go forward and lend a hand when needed and all that cool stuff. They don't like us, meddling in their business. That's totally different. But they really don't like us. They love it when we talk to them. That's a little different. So yeah, Christian, this is already sold, so I think we've spent way too much time on it already. So I'd like to move forward.
Any other comments before we go forward? Councilman Manfredi, did you want to move forward with that then?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to go forward and approve the budget for the next fiscal year.
So
And
moved.
actually, hold on a second. Just out of fairness here, technically, we were still in the public hearing. So we actually need to close the public hearing and open the agenda item that is to approve the budget. So if you guys are okay with quickly moving to that, then we can get to that point. Are you good with that? So,
I make a motion to close the public hearing. I don't know if we need that.
no, we'll go ahead and close it. So we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and that'll take us to, again, item 4.1, which is the resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Maricopa, Arizona, adopting the final budget for fiscal year 2020-21. This is a fiscal year 2021 and discussion and action. So again, Councilman Manfredi, would you move to a motion, please?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 20.19.
Thank you. There's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
I do have a
Yeah, so there's a second on the table. Let's go to Councilwoman Gusson for a question.
Does that include the $1,500? Does the motion include the $1,500 for the Arizona-Mexico Commission? Okay.
Yeah, and I think as that goes, I mean, you can do it, we can structure it any way you want. If you want it to be just the two of you, I think that brings it to a total of 200 or 400 or something like that.
But I think it brings more value if it's a citywide membership.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure,
I'm
absolutely.
not certain if that's in the budget that way or
Yeah,
if
it
it was
is.
the previous way.
Is up to full amount.
That's good.
Okay.
Okay, so the motion and a second. Any further questions? Any further concerns? Seeing none, all in favor, let's move to a roll call.
Vice Mayor Smith? Yes. Councilmember Vitiello?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gussie?
Yes.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes?
Councilmember Manfredi?
Yes.
Councilmember Wade?
Yes.
Mayor Price?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you very much. All right, that concludes our special meeting at this time. So with that, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion concludes. All right, it is 7 o'clock, so we will get rolling on the next one. Okay, thank you for being here Tuesday, June 16th, 2020. This is the City Council regular meeting. At this time, we'd like to call to order the meeting and invite Pastor Ben Gores from the Church of Celebration to please come forward, give us our invocation, after which Councilmember Rich Vitiello will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, as we gather here tonight, you know, as well as you do, that our world is crying out for love. And Father God, we want to answer that cry. We want to be the answer to that prayer. And so we thank you, Father, that you don't just show love, that you are love. And you don't just command us to love. You became love for us. You put it into tangible, practical action that has impacted all of our lives. And so, God, we want to love our neighbors because that's what you've commanded us to do. And so we thank you, God, that your word tells us that love is patient, love is kind. It doesn't envy, it does not boast. It's not self-seeking, it is not rude. It's not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love always trusts, always protects, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. And that's what we want to be as individuals, as a people, as a city. So would you help us, God, to love our neighbors, love our city, love our community, and in that quest to become better people, to become a brighter city. We thank you, God, for the leadership that you provided for our mayor, for our city council. God, would you continue to bless them with wisdom and unity? Father God, we know that we don't see eye to eye, and that's the beautiful thing about all the different ways that you've created us is that we have different perspectives, different experiences. But through those differences, Father God, would you help us to love each other and to move forward for loving each other? Father God, we thank you for all those who serve us, for our law enforcement, for our first responders who stand up and keep our city safe. Would you continue to protect them, guide them, give them wisdom, and help them to continue to be courageous each and every day that they answer the call. And Father God, we thank you for all of the people that make this city great. And would you help us to continue to bless our neighbors, our schools, and all the things that make this city a place that we call home. Pray this in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Okay. That'll take us to item 3, which is proclamation. We are going to do a proclamation actually outside here on the steps, and so before we get to that and take a temporary adjournment here, council, I wanted the opportunity to read it here in public for the viewing public. I need to read it there, off that.
Roll call.
Can we do a roll call?
Did we not do a roll call already?
No.
Sorry, I thought we already did it. My apologies. Too many
Councilmember
meetings
Brown,
tonight.
Here.
Councilman Gussie,
Here?
Councilmember Manfredi,
Here.
Councilmember Vitiello, Councilmember Wade,
Here.
Vice Mayor Smith. Here. Mayor Price.
Here.
Sorry, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you for keeping me on track. I appreciate it. That'll take us to item 3, which is again the proclamation. I'm just going to read this again so folks in the audience that are not joining us in person outside today can hear it. So, and then of course it's a public document. This is a Juneteenth. Some people are not aware of what Juneteenth is, and so I wanted to be able to read this. I thank Councilmember Wade for bringing it and helping support it and have it here tonight. Whereas Juneteenth is the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery in the United States, dating back to June 19th, 1865. And whereas Union soldiers, commanded by Major General Gordon Granger, landed in Galveston, Texas, with the news that the Civil War had ended and that the slaves were free. Although the news was 2.5 years delayed after President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. Whereas the relationship between slaves and their masters became one of hired laborer and employer, with the slaves having the rights to stay or to leave, which many chose to do, especially with those families in adjoining states. And whereas the General Order Number 3, as read to the people of Texas, was as follows. Quote, "The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes the between employer and the hired laborer." End quote. Now therefore I, Christian Price, Mayor of the City of Maricopa, do hereby proclaim Friday, June 19th, 2020, Juneteenth, in the city of Maricopa, Arizona, and urge all citizens to recognize the significance of Juneteenth to African American culture and to its history. So this is dated the 16th of June 2020. So thank you very much, and we're going to go outside and read this on the steps for everybody here to participate in.
Thank you.
All right, so we will adjourn for 5 minutes. Skip that. I really don't have anything other than the fact that we should have an announcement here coming up pretty quick as to the 4th of July celebration and some of the changes that will be going on with that here shortly. So please watch for information there, and that'll turn it over to the council members. Yes, Councilmember Vice Mayor Smith.
Thought you were going to forget us.
I probably was going to, so thank you for reminding me.
No problem. I just have two things. First, I'm excited to announce, as I've already done on Facebook, I had spoken with Supervisor Smith regarding the opportunity for monies from Pinal County for the senior center as they do grant programs in their budgeting every year. And he indicated what the process was, so I spoke with City Manager Horst, and he submitted an application for the senior center for $35,000 and was awarded that $35,000 for the senior center. So they will have some monies to be able to figure out how they actually want to lift that area up once the area is then available. So that's pretty exciting. Second of all, I want to thank Chief Stala, and he's not here, he's probably outside. We had a lunch and learn for seniors via Zoom on police policy in Maricopa, and the chief did a very good job helping people understand what the police policy is, and especially in light of what's happening today in our nation. And we had about 30 seniors online. It was really very delightful, and I received many, many emails afterwards indicating how helpful it was to those that attended. And I'm really glad that we did that. Plus, it allowed some of the seniors to get together and see each other via Zoom. So that was fun. And we also have one coming up, as I know that Councilmember Wade does as well, with Chief Stahl on June 25th at noon, again via Zoom, so that it makes it easy for youth and their parents to get online with the chief. And the chief will answer any questions that the youth have, and he will also help to explain how parents can help their teenagers understand how best to interact with police when they are involved in an interaction with the police. And so I think that will be a very good process for them as well. On June 25th at noon via Zoom, you can look for the information on Facebook, and then I'll also provide it for our website as well. So thank you, Mayor.
Yep. Anyone else? Yes, Councilmember Wade.
Yes, it seems to be a subject du jour here with having the opportunity to speak with the police chief, and so we will be conducting a conversation with the Maricopa PD and the chief. Actually, there will be representatives there from the command staff, from training sergeants, and regular line officers as well. That is geared towards the youth as well, and it'll take place on Friday, Juneteenth, the 19th, from 6 to 8 p.m. at Leading Edge Academy. So that's Friday, June 19th, from 6 to 8 p.m. at Leading Edge Academy. Doors open at 5:30. We will be social distancing. We will be ensuring that folks wear masks as a part of it, so not to worry about that. If you don't have masks, one will be provided for you when you arrive. And so we're looking forward to it. There seems to be a buzz about it, which we're happy about. And so come on out, and that's Juneteenth, June 19th, 6 to 8 p.m. at Leading Edge Academy for what we're calling Maricopa PD and Youth Question and Answers.
Thank you, Councilmember. Anyone else at this time? Any other council members wish to discuss what they've been up to? Okay, with that, we'll move on. That'll take us to the report from the city manager. Thank you, City Manager Horst. That'll take us to the meeting minutes. Item 6.1, which is the approval of the meeting minutes from the June 2nd, 2020 council meeting. Can I have a motion to approve, please?
So move.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. That'll take us to item 7, which is item 7.1 through 7.4, which is the consent agenda. Council, does anyone have any questions or concerns with consent before we accept a motion? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries as well. And that'll take us to item 8, which is the regular agenda. And at this time, we only have one item on the regular agenda. This is miscellaneous 20-13. The mayor and city council shall discuss and possibly take action regarding the rollout and the administration of the Maricopa AZ Cares program. This is for discussion and action. I believe we're going to turn it over to City Manager Horst for some information regarding this.
Item 7-1?
8-1.
8-1?
8-1, I'm sorry, thank you. I was looking for a note and missed part of what you said.
Oh, sorry about that.
So we have a couple of items before us tonight. First, you may recall that we presented a recommendation for the disbursement of funds and its allocations for the different criteria at an executive session 2 weeks ago. So pending any changes to that, we will need your approval for those funding categories. Within those are two funding categories, one for the Small Business Reemergence Program and one for the nonprofits who benefited and provided aid and food to those in need due to the COVID virus. The rough allocation for the small business loans is $1.1 million and approximately $600,000 for the nonprofits. We did want to mention, we provided you the documentation late yesterday. We apologize for that, but it's been very fluid as we've been trying to work through some legal issues and other things. We do have a few minor amendments I just want to bring to your attention and see that you would be comfortable with. The first being that should the nonprofit program, once we award and meet the needs of the applications, if there be any monies left in that $600,000 balance, we would like your authority to immediately transfer that to the small business side because we anticipate a greater need on the small business side, and that will prevent us from having to spend 2 more weeks waiting for another word. So in other words, if we spend $400,000 or $450,000, the $150 balance can move to the 1.1 to be awarded on the business side. So we'd ask your consideration on that tonight as well.
City Manager Horst, before we move on from that, I mean, is that a question that I wonder if council should answer now to say, should we leave it as such and see if that happens? I mean, if that happens, certainly I have no problem with that. Or should we say that maybe that estimate is a little high on the nonprofit side / food bank side and maybe
I had that
reduce
same
it?
question, Mr. Mayor. And so additionally, I can piggyback on your question.
Sure.
We have make a statement before I ask the question, a plethora of home-based businesses in this city. And I don't know how we measure what success they've had. It seems to me we ought to give some consideration to a few of those who might be at the precipice of jumping off into a location of their own. I don't know how you measure that, how we can find out who they are, but some might need just a little lift to help them.
Well, any business, whether it's a home occupation business or a bricks and mortar business, is eligible to make an application, and they'll need to make their case in the application process. I do hear what the mayor's saying, and I do think that the $600,000 on the nonprofit side is probably elevated higher than it needs to be initially. So if you wanted to consider reducing that and adding it to the other side now, I think that would be appropriate. If you was to ask my opinion, that number probably ought to be between $300,000 and $400,000, allowing the balance to move to the 1.1. And if you did that tonight, it would be very helpful. Right. Otherwise, the intent was so we didn't have to wait for another city council meeting. Right. So I would ask your consideration on that as we go through the night. The other minor changes.
City Manager, sorry, we have a question here.
Yes, sir.
No, are you finished? I was going to make a motion to reduce that down to 4.
So let's
2 more items.
Yeah, let's do the motion after it gets to the other 2 items. But we have a question from Councilmember Vidiello.
Yeah, with things spiking a little bit here in our state, I'm just wondering if we should actually even hold some of that money back, or just in case something happens longer term, that we should probably hold some back. I believe that would be part of the motion, I guess I would
That's
put that
part
as.
of the plan.
The plant you're talking about for city needs?
Yeah, and well, not only city needs, but also if there's other businesses, if we happen to have another, God forbid, a shutdown, I'm just saying, maybe we should hold a couple $100,000 back that we could always reallocate back into it, but hold it back for maybe just a little bit of time to see if anything does spike.
That would be up to the council's discretion. My advice would be, though, that businesses need help now.
Yeah.
And should we have a second need or a second major shutdown, I suspect there might be additional incentive programs coming out of the federal government that would address it at that time. And keep in mind, the state held some money back too for that purpose already, of which some of those dollars should rightfully come to the cities and towns.
Correct. Vice Mayor?
I thought what Councilmember Vitiello was talking about was holding monies for future COVID-19, like if it were to reemerge at a higher level, the city needed, and that part of the plan does include that. I want to say it's like 5%, 3%.
Unfortunately, I don't have that in front of me. I think
Okay.
3% is the right number.
3%. So it does include that from the city perspective. Regarding businesses, right before I came into this meeting, or actually our executive session earlier, I received a call, and I've been receiving calls all week from businesses. Hey, what's the status of that application? I'm about ready to go under. I mean, it's going to be highly needed, and at this point, I wouldn't suggest holding any back in regards to what we might be able to provide for small businesses. That would be my input.
And as a follow-on to that, on a phone call with Congressman O'Halloran today, they are working on a potential secondary ask of a CARES 4, or whatever you want to call it, whether it'll happen or not, but.
The Senate's not going to approve that, though.
But the Senate's dropping their own. They're dropping their own at the same time. So, the Senate's going to drop one, the House is going to drop one, they'll go to conference, they're going to have to work it out. We'll have to see if the president signs it, all those types of, there's a lot up in the air, but the reality is you bring up an interesting point about resurgence, and if it resurges and that causes a problem, what does that mean for people? So I think at the end of the day, Congress is trying to reapportion that. They have a formulaic number that it's $150 per head per capita, right? So, at the end of the day, and it would come directly to us, not to the governor. So that's as it's planned now in both houses, but again, that would have to be dealt with in negotiations and horse trading. But there is another plan on the horizon of sorts. Whether it materializes or not, anybody knows. So, I don't disagree with having a reserve, but I think that the problem involves is that these businesses may not make it through the summer. So we can't hold back in the respect that hey, what if? Well, what if is going to happen before they ever get through the summer, and that's a bigger problem that I think we have to deal with. So yes, Councilman Wade.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is more on a local level. As part of the application, it indicates, very first thing it indicates is that the organization is in the city of Maricopa. And we have a number of organizations and programs and businesses that are not located in Maricopa but serve Maricopa almost exclusively. And so I was wondering how that came about, where the city of Maricopa had to be considered, if there's a way we could adjust that at all.
Well, I think certainly anything can be adjusted. I think that the idea is that even in the CARES Act money, one of the things it says is that you can't double dip, right? So you can't take PPP money and then take this money and use it for the same thing that
Right,
PPP was
understood,
for.
understood.
And so the philosophy is if they're outside the city, then they supply to the county, right? The county has a bigger pot of money than we ever got, and they're actually counted in the county's money, not in the city of Maricopa's money. So while we can do that, we can open that up. All we're doing is taking away from businesses within the city of Maricopa and giving it to someone outside, but they could double dip in essence then by applying both here and to Pinal County. And I think that in discussions with Vice Mayor Smith and with Tony Smith, who's clearly our county supervisor, he's suggested, hey, send them all to me and I'll champion, their success ratio at the county level. So again, it's open to the discussion of this council, but I certainly want to make sure that we are giving all we can to those that we can. And if, I don't want to double dip, I'm not saying they would, but at the same time, the county has a bigger pot of money because it's already counted for them.
So I just want to make sure I understand this and make it straight, that if they are not located in the city of Maricopa and they are in the county, that they should go to to Supervisor Smith
Yes.
and address it with him.
Absolutely.
And I
Okay,
believe their application process is now open, so
okay.
they need to be doing that application. probably within the next week, week and a half.
We always have this debate, and so unfortunately, it's here now in this particular area, so.
And it is tricky because our lines aren't exactly linear, right? I mean, we have an encompassed area that is outside of what our border is, but clearly, we're all brothers and sisters here that we work together to accomplish the same thing. So, I certainly don't disagree with what you're arguing. We have to draw the line somewhere, and I think it's not that they're without. They are with, and in fact, they're with a champion, and they're with, someone that has money on their behalf. I just don't think it's necessarily fair that we reduce something for someone inside the city when they're not going to get it from the county.
Okay.
Right? The people inside the county are not going to, the people inside the city are not going to get it from the county. They're only going to get it from the city. The people outside in the county then have to say to ourselves, do they get to participate in both then? And our own businesses only get to participate in one? Not sure that's fair.
Yeah. As I said, I get that piece, so, okay.
Yeah.
We will ensure that our resources link includes that data and to send them to the Pinal County page.
Good.
The last couple items we are really just some additional clarifications, particularly on the nonprofit side. We increased the scope to include capital needs to enhance present and future capabilities. And under the prioritization criteria, there is some concern that if you check one of those boxes, you weren't eligible to apply. That's not true. So we added none of these will disqualify your application. It's just to help us understand what other assistance you may have received. So unless you have other questions, I would look for your support on these and also to give me a number on the nonprofit.
Perfect. Does anyone have any questions on the other two things that he mentioned first of all? Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to add something.
Yes, Councilmember Manfredi.
I brought up a couple things to the city manager earlier, late last night, and for some reason he read my emails late last night. And this morning we had conversations, and some of it, revolved around allowing businesses to apply and opening up the scope of it, because I kind of felt it was sort of narrow. In regard to the nonprofit, I'm okay with leaving it at, say, the 600,000, right?
Right?
Correct?
Yes.
That's what it's at currently, yes.
Yeah. I'm okay with leaving it at 600 and then just putting into our motion that if that money is not used for nonprofits or for the food bank, basically, food banks, then we then transfer that money to the small business money. So I don't think we need to reduce the nonprofit aspect of it. I think what we need to do is leave it alone, and then if the money's left over and not used by X date, then we can roll it in, and we might be able to, at that time, look at a different funding mechanism outside of what we currently have for small businesses. Something where we can actually award every citizen in the city of Maricopa X dollars in a coupon. They can maybe use it at small businesses, and then that small business brings that coupon back into the city and exchanges it for cash. So there's a couple ways that we might be able to do something with money later that we're not thinking of right now. So instead of decreasing, I say leave it alone and then roll it into the small business if it's left over. That's my opinion on it.
Thank you, Councilmember. Council, thoughts? Yes, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I would support that as well. It's currently written up that way, and if we approve making a modification that once we know what that nonprofit value is that's been requested, just move the rest over to small business, I think it accomplishes the same thing, and I'm fine with leaving it at the 600.
So let me ask a question here. I think it's about process. So the reality is this group that is going to be consistent of reviewing the applications, staff members that'll go through this and eventually send up to council here in a couple of weeks the slate of all the applications that have come in and all the ones that have been sorted through and the approval of what they've asked for and why and all these things, okay? So I guess my question is council, do you wish to give directive to the city manager to say, in essence, it's true you have $600,000 available to you, but barring one or two people coming and asking for a total of $600,000, I mean, should we be giving the staff direction here to say, really, we'd like you to keep it at about 4, right? And therefore essentially free up that other, unless there are 1,700 people that apply under nonprofit status and they truly use up all 600,000, right? Because I think at some point we have to give them some direction by which to operate under. Otherwise, we've told them they've got 600,000, they could spend all 600,000. At least that's the recommendation up to us.
If it's available.
Right, exactly. So I guess if we could get some clarification there.
Well, I tend to agree, and I thought about it over the last few days. I certainly don't want to send a false message that one agency applies so they get all $600,000. There has to be justification and significance to their application, and they may get, substantially less than that. So I would actually ask for a compromise. Number one, that we reduce it to 300,000 or 400,000 now, and immediately transfer that 200,000 or 300,000 to the other side. And then if we don't spend the 300,000 or 400,000, we can do what was referenced. So it's a hybrid of the two. So I would recommend maybe.
That'd be kind of fast.
Okay.
So I recommend maybe 350,000. Transfer the 250 immediately. If we don't spend the 350, then we can transfer the balance.
Well, that's my motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Let's go to further discussion. Vice Mayor, you look like you have a question or a comment or a thought.
I think it'll all work out in the end, so I'm fine with the process.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second with the differences that the city manager has already gone over, plus the transfer of this 250,000 to the other side for the business side. We're all in agreement with that? If so, yes. City
One
manager.
last thing, if you would allow us to make any non-substantive changes as necessary should legal issues come up that don't address the meat and potatoes of but just smaller issues.
Right. Are you all okay with that? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yes, Councilwoman Gessie.
I did have a question on the timeline. Were you specific as to, this is a deadline? Where are we going to come?
Yes, we are actually going to present that tonight, but initially we had some concerns about some legal issues that have kind of been resolved now. So our goal would be to probably get this out next week.
All right, perfect.
And then Councilman
We can
Freddie
do
is
that
right.
quickly?
Think so?
Yeah.
Dennis had a question.
No, I was just trying to make sure we went back, Mayor,
Right.
once you.
I was going to say, I want to
Who
amend
made
the motion.
except
Correct.
That
I want
last
to
to
amend
make
the
that
motion.
modification, Rick's
Right. So
modification?
Rick has a modification about the legal side of things. Can staff have the ability to make amendments, tweaks in there as it deals with legalities that come up on an application or something like that? So would you accept that amendment to that
accept it.
motion? Would you accept the second
I
to that?
seconded it.
So there is a motion, a second, based on the acceptance of that amended motion. Any further discussion on that? Yes, Vice Mayor.
In the documents that you sent us, it did say that the application was going out tomorrow, but you just indicated next week. So are we modifying the timeline?
Well, that was before we had, again, the legal issues came up, so we may have to do a little legal tweaking. So I just want to make sure we got everything just right. For instance, if an employee, which includes you, is tied to any business, they're not prevented from applying, but there needs to be a conflict of interest statement signed. So there's just a few pieces that we need to finalize to get squared away. And I'm hoping we get it out this week, but certainly no later than next week.
Okay, and so then my follow-up question, City Manager Horst, is because there are probably lots of businesses watching right now, how are we going to, what's the fastest way to let them know, boom, the application is ready, go for it?
It will go out on all media for platforms. I'll let Jennifer speak to that.
Honorable mayor and council members, we'll send it out, we'll put it on our website, so that's the easiest place for folks to see it. But we also have our constant contact list, and if people aren't on that, they would know if they're on that because they'd get our repetitive emails. If they're not on that, they can sign up on our website, which is maricopa-az.gov, and then also all of our social media pages on Facebook is probably the easiest to check it out there. So it should be on all of those, and our constant contact list goes out to about 26,000 people, so there's probably a lot on there.
Great,
Thanks.
thank you.
And all else fails, they can just call City Hall and ask for Rick or Jennifer.
Okay. Councilman Wade, did you have a question?
I just had a point of clarity for myself. You said that the document indicated that it was to go out tomorrow, but I thought it was not identified in the document what the date was. Maybe I was reading the wrong thing.
Maybe it was the document we got last time, at last city council?
It may have been from the committee discussion that we
Okay.
had, but like I said, we have a few cleanup things we need to do. We'll get it out as quickly as we can. What would be a safe date that you think we could meet?
Monday.
This Thursday or Monday?
I think we could do this Thursday.
Okay, we'll shoot for this
yeah.
Thursday. We're now committed. We're live. No later
have a
than
weekend
Thursday
at
at
it.
midnight, but Thursday.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
So for clarity's sake, again, just to repeat that, we are looking to open the application period this Thursday, the 18th. Okay, and that will stay open for how long?
2 weeks.
For 2 weeks. All right, with a closing date of the 2nd, that would be July 2nd, Thursday, the July 2nd. Does that sound right?
I don't have a calendar in front of me, Mary, but that
So
sounds
the
right.
18th and the next Thursday, the 25th, and the following Thursday is the 2nd. That would be 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay, and then at close of business, at 6 o'clock here or at midnight, which is it?
6
Clo-
o'clock.
Close of business?
Well, yeah.
We put it at 6 PM in case people wanted to drop
So
off.
close of business, 6 PM in case people want to drop it off in physical form here. So that would be a closing of the application period with a complete knowledge that there may not be a secondary opening. This is it. This is the 2 weeks.
Mayor, we are closed on the 2nd.
Oh, we're closing
That
the
is when
second.
we celebrate the 4th of July holiday.
That's
So
when
we may
it's
have to
recognized
close
there.
it. We may have to just have it open for 13 days.
Shall we close it on the 6th, Monday the 6th?
Well,
I'd rather give it one more day later than one day less.
Well, but Friday, nobody's
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And Monday's
Monday the
here.
6th.
so it'd have to be Monday the 6th?
Right. Monday the 6th?
I think that's fine.
Yep.
Okay, so
We'll be able to look at it
reclarification with
Yeah.
a little over 2 weeks, Monday the 6th, close of business, 6 PM, City Hall is when the application period will close. Okay?
And of course, people don't have to wait till the 6th to turn them in.
Correct, you don't have to wait.
As
Sooner
they
the
start
better.
turning them in, we'll start processing.
That's right. Okay.
And just
So-
a follow-up, how much longer will a decision take? I mean, these people are, like you had mentioned earlier, they're waiting. I mean, they're hanging by a thread financially, and they need to know this like yesterday. So how much longer do you predict after
Another 2
you receive the
weeks.
applications?
And we will have to call a special meeting for you to prove everything.
So before we go any further, I mean, I know we're asking a lot of questions. We do have a motion and a second on the table at the moment. So that was just to approve these other items. Let's get those cleared off the docket here, and then we can ask any more questions. So again, there's a motion and a second that's been amended.
With amendments.
And so with that, can I have an all in favor say aye? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. All right. So let's continue on here with other questions and other parts of the presentation.
So how long?
Well, Julie had a question.
No, I think you answered it.
Yeah.
You're looking at mid-July,
Yeah,
towards the end of,
it would be roughly around the 21st.
Yeah, we need to move that up.
No, I'm sorry, that's not right.
The 21st is the first council meeting in July, because we don't have one on the
Well,
7th.
that's about right.
But-
Gives us the 2 weeks.
But if it closes as the period closes on Monday, I mean, our folks are gonna have to go through all these applications. You know, I mean, maybe the earliest we could look for a special meeting on the 15th? The 15th
Yeah, I'd
of
say
July?
the 14th or the 15th, we should have a special meeting on it.
Yeah, if we can get things done by then. That's about a week and a half. But it's,
But remember, we're gonna process stuff, starting, so if they start submitting their applications on Thursday the 18th, we'd be neglecting our duties if we didn't start processing those and reviewing them on the 18th, 19th, 20th, whatever it is, the 22nd. So, like, if somebody brings it into us on the 5th, on the 6th, then that should be, the one or two that are on the 5th should be the ones that we're doing for the next couple of days. But we should be processing it and looking through them as they come in. I don't think we should wait until there's a huge pile and then sit down and go, okay, here we go for the next 12 hours.
Yes.
I think we should process them as they come in.
Yeah, staff will evaluate them as they come in, but ultimately, the city council has to approve them, and you can't meet every single day. May I suggest that we'll have as many ready by the week of the 14th, 15th, and if there's those who turn in late may have to be waiting to be approved on the 21st.
Yeah.
So we'll have a special meeting sometime that week, and then the 21st for the last
Right.
catch up.
The stragglers. Because here's my issue with that, Councilman Freddie, is like the staff said, we can't meet every day, obviously, on this and make, approval after approval after approval. So, I mean, that's the challenge. But at the same time, one of the concerns that I've heard Vice Mayor Smith issue is that, the way the federal government did is they did just that. And what happened was the big boys that have their lawyers and all their folks in a row, and, man, they had that application in a lickety-split. Right, and so what happened was a big chunk of the money was gone before the little guy ever got a shot. And so, one of the things that I want to make sure that we are doing and advising staff is that in this 2-week period, we're giving everybody the same shot. No matter how much you've asked for, no matter what your expenses have been, no matter how big or small you are, everybody gets the same shot. So that at the close, these guys know that this is the amount of money they had to give out, and that they've gone through and they've tried to equate everybody on the same line, right? They try and treat everybody the same, minus the ups and downs of whatever it is they've asked for, or things they've doubled up on, or things they don't qualify for, or whatever the case. Because the last thing I want to see is that the first 5 people get the bulk of the money and the last 25 get, the leftovers. And so that's my only concern with it. But I agree with you that I think that we certainly want to see that, we have a special meeting on the 14th or the 15th so that we can approve 90% of the slate and get it out the door.
Yeah, the mayor makes a very good point. For parity's sake, we need to review all of them before we make judgment on any of them. If you'll forgive staff for not moving forward some other items that week and we concentrate on this one, maybe we can just meet like on the 16th, and we'll try our best to have them all done.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I just wanted to ask you, we're asking for 2 weeks, right, for this. If the money's needed that desperately, which we all know they do, why wouldn't we just want to do it all in the first week? Get your application in to the people. Let's only open it for 1 week, because
Some
I
of
don't
them
think
do have to
communication-
provide some documentation,
Yeah.
some of it, they're getting refunds for money they spent, they gotta produce their tax number, they gotta, there's different
I'm just
things.
trying to get it to them quicker.
I know, but at the same time, you got people that are coming and going out of town. School's going to start in late July, assuming that the school starts on that time frame. So you got people out of town for whatever reason, or family reunions, or, people, it's summer, right? And so it's going to take some time for the message to drift through as well. We want to make sure all the businesses have as much time to not only hear about it, but then to get their application together.
I'm just trying to get it to them quicker.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's all.
I agree. Okay, what else? What else do we need to discuss and talk about? So, again, we're trying to set an approval meeting on 14th, 15th, or 16th. We have the close of the application period on the 6th. We have a group of staff. I think it's 4 staffers, right? Is that correct?
That's
5
correct.
4 staffers, and who does that team consist of?
That's myself, Jennifer Brown, Nathan Olliott, and Nathan Steele.
Okay.
And then we have Adam Shipley, who's going to be he won't be part of the committee or have a say in the recommendations, but he will be monitoring and working with the applications. We also have someone from finance who will keep the financial records, which are critical to this process as well.
Okay. And then have we also gone through the process of the application through the governor's office as well?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good. Do we have an expectation?
We
as
signed the
to-
last letter today.
Okay, great. And do we have an expectation as to the receiving of that?
Yeah. Pardon me?
Do we have an expectation to the receiving of, it's usually about a week, I think,
No.
so.
No, we're in full process, so
Okay,
certainly we anticipate those funds prior to the
the
delivery
distribution.
date.
Okay. All right, what else, council? What else are we missing? What else have we forgotten or haven't said? Yes, Vice.
Again, I'm
Councilor
not
Wade.
trying to delay the process here, but I know that when we initially talked about the organization or the team that was going to review the applications, there was a provision for a business person to be a part of that group. And I didn't hear that just now, so I'm wondering if that's still there or
The issue is, who do you pick and how do you avoid perceived bias and conflict?
And the other side of it is.
And ultimately, the decision to spend money should belong to the elected officials.
Depending on how many applications we get, these guys are going to be working around the clock for 10 hours a day for 4 days or 5 days a week, until we get them all reviewed and then allocated, et cetera. So, I mean, I'm not sure we can ask that of a business owner who's trying to keep their business afloat.
That's,
That's the trade-off, and I agree with you. We certainly want to do that, but in a perfect world where we had 6 months to get this out, we could do that easily. But where we have to literally dedicate 4 of our top staff people to get it through in the fairest, way possible, as quickly as possible, we got to give something up.
okay, that's fine. Thank you. Appreciate the explanation.
What else? What else do we have questions on that we need to clarify, that we need to give direction to staff on? What are we missing? One of the things, I know this is going to sound silly, but you had brought it up, Councilmember Wade, to me, and I had just thought of it, you had just pointed out just now. It's listed on our website or in the prototype as the Maricopa Small Business Reemergence Program. I think that we should rename that just Maricopa Reemergence Program. I think you should take small business out of it and just leave it categorically generic. Because again, we've categorized who it's for through the application process, and that way we just leave the title a little more simple.
Okay, and that's for the business side. We're okay with the nonprofit side title.
I didn't see that one. I
It's
just thought we should
food
do
and
it.
aid distribution, non-assistance, nonprofit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I
They're
guess we
two
can.
separate applications because they have separate criteria.
Okay.
but-
Okay.
I would hope that those small businesses that really need help do apply and not hold back and think
Yeah.
a second cycle will be forthcoming. That's not at all assured.
Right.
So I think we need to stress that. Some
Right.
people might, no, I'll wait for the second cycle. Because Larry Kudlow said 3 o'clock today that he's not supporting it, second cycle. He's the economic advisor to the president.
Right. So, I mean, you bring up a great point. Again, I think a couple of things here to follow on with what you just said, Councilmember Brown, is that, I think one of the things I think we should try and just slightly touch on is in the application process, some of the things that we've asked for is what does this, if I'm a business owner and I'm listening to this tonight, what should I be listening for so that my application can have some substance? So, what could I ask for? And if you could run down a few of those things. But at the same time, I think we have to make sure that we understand that, again, in the spirit of the law, right, the spirit of what Congress ultimately gave this money for through the governor's office is that this was for COVID-related expenditures. So, again, we've got to deal with it within the COVID-related parameters.
Correct, and there are some parameters that are not allowed by law, such as lost revenue. But particularly the March, April, May mortgage or lease payments, any costs that they have spent on PPE, whether that's with their employees or setting up their tables or buying shields or paper menus or anything and everything related to that they can think of. Or if they haven't done it yet because they haven't had the money, submit a list of what your needs are so you can have the money to implement all those type of things. So those are the primary things, but I think people have to think long and hard about what COVID-related means with regard to PPE and other things, because there's probably some costs they may not capture if they did some additional advertising because they had to do curbside, those type of things. People need to think broadly as a part of that project. And on the nonprofit side, of course, it's to replenish, those who provided food and other aid to the needy due to COVID-related items. And we think of our food banks, but there are also churches and others who may have pulled out of their church pantries and others. But it's not designed just to replenish their stock. It's also to enable them to be better equipped for the next time this might occur. So if they need more storage or refrigeration or something like that, I think all those type of things would certainly qualify. I would also suggest that if people are unsure whether it will qualify or not, include it. Mm-hmm. And we'll figure it out as we go, which if you don't ask, you'll never get it. So,
Absolutely. Thank you, City Manager. Also, again, as it relates to COVID and it relates to this, one time that Councilmember Brown just said is that, again, I want to reiterate, this is the application period. People are going to ask based on what was just explained, and there may not be anything left. This is a one-time allocation from the governor. We may or may not get a CARES 4 Act from Congress, and that's a who knows at this point. And, 2-3 months away is an eternity in U.S. Congress world. So, the fact of the matter is, and the reality of the matter, this is the opportunity, and it is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. So again, I encourage people to share this message and to talk about it, to let their other business owners know in the city, and to ask, because that's all you can do. But don't expect, if you're late, past the 6th, we have to be fair to everybody. So there's just, if there's money left over, then maybe we can have a second round, but there's just no telling that that's going to be the case. So don't think that there is. What else, council, have we missed or need to discuss? Again, for the public's benefit, before we approve this item and this measure. I just want to say that, I'm proud of you all, and I'm proud of, the city staff for taking this on. I want to let the council know that there are some legal details that need to be, worked out and wrangled with, and don't need to go too much into that, but just suffice it to say that we're going to keep working all those angles. I went back over my oath today, and I was really hesitant to roll this program out yet if we had to go back and take it back away because of some legal detail or something like that. I think that takeaway is a really bad thing for people. But at the same time, in my discussions with business owners that were calling me this week and sending me emails, not only are they begging and pleading for their survival, some of them are flat out saying they may not make it through the summer. And that is a sad, sad thing. That is a lagging indicator, but it is one that is coming, and it's going to hit us all hard in a variety of ways. It hits, it's a multiplicity of issues. Not only does the business open up and go out, but they're no longer paying taxes or, generating retail sales for their own families. They're no longer, their houses are potentially on the market. We don't know what their future holds, and they're not buying clothing, and it's a systematic domino effect. And so again, when I personally went back and re-examined my oath of office, one of the things that it said was, to protect against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I guess I didn't think an enemy was going to be a virus. And at the same time, I'm not sure that I considered, the government in which we love, that is not perfect, but it does its best job to tell people to shut down and not operate as a sacrifice, is also could be considered an enemy if not, carefully scrutinized. And I think this is, goes in line with what the CARES Act money spirit of the law is, that it is asking to help replenish and help these folks survive another couple of months and see what can be done. Now, it's not a save all. It's not going to make everybody's woes go away, but maybe, just maybe, it can help someone just a little bit and enough. And one of the things that kind of persuaded me was the discussion with a business owner whom you all know very well. And she goes, the fact of the matter is that it's just giving hope. Even if it does get taken away, and even if it doesn't happen, there's just a little bit more hope that maybe, just maybe, that we'll be able to survive a little bit longer and maybe get through it, and maybe be able to find my way through it, and that the worst won't happen. That my life savings, my life work, everything I put into this to make it survive through some random act that I had nothing to do with, closes me up forever. And I thought a lot about that, and thought that, at the end of the day, my job is to move us forward and deal with the consequences later. And so with that, I would certainly motion to approve this program as we've discussed tonight. And if there's a second, I would certainly accept it.
Second that. Compounding the problem you just detailed very appropriately, Mr. Mayor, is the fact that the employees of that business owner who has been getting extra unemployment compensation, $600, that will be ending soon, as well as regular unemployment at some point. So those are the ones who really, truly will be suffering. I mean, many of them rarely, if ever, have their heads above water anyway. So when you talk about sinking, that's the father, mother, teenagers who really would be suffering. What I lament is so many kids who are graduating from colleges and universities, where are they going to, unless they're really highly technically trained, where are they going to find employment? That's the real dilemma. Jobs just are not going to be there unless we can get this economy back up big time, big time. And normalcy will not occur unless a vaccine are approved and readily available for everyone. Because even if the United States is fully vaccinated, if Europe, Asia, Africa, South America is not, we're not safe.
Thank you, Councilmember. There is a second by Councilmember Manfredi. So there's a first and a second on the table. City Manager Horst.
Forgive me for prolonging the meeting, but under the circumstances and the significance of this, I wonder if the mayor would consider and the city clerk would consider allowing the record to show that all 6 council members are a second on this motion.
Can we
What's
do that?
this motion, Mr. Mayor?
This motion is this is for discussion and action. The item of 8.1, this is for the
With
approval.
the amendment.
Correct.
With the amendment added. Got it, okay.
Yeah,
It's just
and,
the motion and the amendment.
and to that end, we could do a roll call if that would make it.
Did Vanessa
truly-
get it?
Can we do a 6 council member second? Or do we just do a roll call?
What does it hurt?
What's that?
What does it hurt?
Absolutely nothing.
That's right. Yeah.
Special times require special measures.
Mr. Mayor, I just want clarification on the first motion. The Councilmember Brown motion, the $350,000 for nonprofits with the authorization for the city manager and the attorney to make amendments. What is your motion and Councilmember Manfredi's second?
It's to accept the whole program. Because all we did
It's
was
one
amend a few of the things internally there.
Okay, so that wasn't an official motion.
Yeah, so it was an official motion, I think, but.
There's only one
But
action.
I guess, yeah, so I guess you're right, there's one action item, so I guess should we go ahead and leave it as is, or do we?
Leave it as is.
I think it's a motion to approve the program as stated with the amendment to move $350,000 for the nonprofit, that would be what the nonprofit would be. But the further amendment was, and I think this is where the confusion was, is there's still some legalities that need to work out, and so Rick's authorized to work through those
Right.
legalities.
But it's the motion from Councilmember Brown and a second,
Right.
Councilmember Wade.
So
I think, Rick,
Yes, it
I
was
think the
seconded by
council
me.
wanted to show all council members as the second on that.
I know
Okay,
it's
if
petty on my part.
Councilmember Brown and Wade accept that?
So,
Yes.
will you accept that?
Because there's a motion on the
Yes.
table.
Okay. So basically, we're just we're redoing the motion. I'm sorry, audience, this is the procedural issue of government trying to make it official, but again, we have a motion and a second. Again, thank you to Councilmember Brown and Councilmember Wade for the previous motion, but this motion includes that amended motion, including the legalities, including the movement, and the acceptance of the program as we've talked about in its entirety tonight. Okay, there's a motion and a second. Second, if it's okay with all of you, has been made by all of you.
Yes.
And with that, let's go ahead and move to a roll call vote.
Councilmember Manfredi?
Before I vote, I wanted to say, as a business owner here in the city of Maricopa with 7 employees, we face this downturn hard because one of the first things businesses do is stop working with advertising and stuff, right? So, we've experienced it. I've sat with business owners who, broke down in tears and talked to me about how their business might not last. And thankfully, they got some PPP loans from the government, but still meeting with them and hearing them explain how they could use a little extra help. So this program makes me very proud to be part of and very proud to say yes on that vote.
Councilmember Wade?
Yes, ma'am.
Vice Mayor Smith?
100% yes.
Councilmember Vitiello? Yes. Councilwoman Gussie?
Absolutely, yes.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Mayor Price?
Proud to say yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That concludes the item, and thank you, council, for that, and look forward to hopefully helping some desperately needed individuals of our fellow citizens here in Maricopa. So thank you for your work on this, and again, many thanks in advance to staff who really is going to have the yeoman's work ahead of them. So thank you for that. And with that, we will go ahead and conclude this meeting. That concludes our meetings for this evening. We have no further executive sessions. And it is a reminder, we do not have a 4th of July, 1st of July council meeting. We'll most likely have a special council meeting to deal with the potential approval of a slate of approvals coming from the committee. So with that, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll see you in a few weeks.